The sound of shattering glass cut through the quiet hallway of the Grant mansion like a gunshot. A maid gasped. A bodyguard turned sharply. But Alexander Grant, the billionaire himself, stood frozen as the baseball rolled toward his polished shoes. His 15-year-old son, Liam, stood at the other end of the hallway with wide eyes and trembling hands. I'm sorry," Liam stuttered. Alexander stared at the broken vase, then at the son whose life felt more like a distant satellite than a child he raised. Before he could speak, Liam dropped his backpack and ran out the door. "Liam, come back here," Alexander called, but the boy was already gone. Bodyguards moved, waiting for orders, but Alexander raised a hand. "Let him go." He didn't know why he said it. Maybe it was the shock, maybe the exhaustion, or maybe the sinking feeling that he no longer understood his son at all. An hour later, the security team informed him that Liam had returned, gone straight to his room, and refused dinner. Alexander sighed, rubbing his temples. The broken vase didn't matter. What mattered was the growing distance, a canyon he felt powerless to cross. The next morning, Liam left for school earlier than usual. Alexander watched from the balcony as his son marched down the driveway alone, refusing the chauffeur's offer. Once again, no goodbye. Something in Alexander twisted painfully. At breakfast, his longtime assistant, Clara, cleared her throat gently. "Sir, this is the third week your son has avoided the driver." "I'm aware," Alexander replied without looking up. Clara hesitated. "Do you think everything is all right with him?" He put down his cup, staring at the untouched coffee. "No, I don't." He didn't say more, but the unease had been clawing at him for weeks. Liam coming home exhausted, torn clothes, scraped knuckles, days where he barely spoke, nights where he stayed up, pacing, and worst of all, the secrecy. Alexander had built a billion-dollar empire. He could predict market crashes, negotiate contracts in his sleep, and strategize circles around political leaders. But he could not understand his own son. By early afternoon, he could no longer focus on work. Reports blurred. His signature missed the line twice. Finally, he pushed his chair back and stood. "Have the car brought around," he told Clara, "but with tinted windows. No security convoy." She blinked. "Sir, I'm going to follow him after school." Clara's eyebrows shot up, but she nodded. "I'll arrange everything discreetly." When the school bell rang later that day, Alexander's car sat half a block away, engine silent. His heart thudded harder than during board meetings or shareholder battles. Liam exited the school gates alone, wearing the same slightly worn jacket he insisted on keeping despite the wardrobe of designer clothes waiting for him at home. He looked over his shoulder once, paranoid, checking for someone, then took off down the sidewalk. "Drive," Alexander whispered. The car rolled slowly, keeping a cautious distance. Liam crossed busier streets, weaving between crowds with surprising confidence. Then he veered. Liam didn't even buy one for himself. He glanced toward the street as if checking the time, then rushed out of the store and continued walking. Alexander felt his chest tighten. Why would a boy who had everything be buying cheap meal bars with his own money? "Stay back," Alexander told the driver, "but don't lose him." For another 10 minutes, Liam moved deeper into the city, turning corners with a familiarity that startled his father. How long had he been coming here? And why? Eventually, Liam slipped down a narrow alley between an abandoned bookstore and a laundromat with flickering lights. Alexander cursed under his breath. He opened the car door immediately. "Sir," the driver tried to warn, but Alexander raised a hand. "I'm going alone." He adjusted his coat and followed on foot, his expensive shoes soaking up the puddles scattered along the cracked pavement. The alley bent left, then right. Only faint city noise reached it. Alexander's pulse quickened. He caught sight of Liam just before the boy entered a peeling old building with graffiti on the brick walls. A faded sign hung crooked above the door. Riverside Youth Center. Riverside, Alexander whispered. It sounded familiar, something about funding shortages or possible shutdown. He had skimmed an email months ago during a flight and forgotten it immediately. He edged closer and peered through a dirty side window. What he saw made him blink. Inside, his son wasn't meeting dangerous kids. He wasn't dealing drugs or misbehaving or joining some underground group like Alexander had feared. Liam was sweeping the floor. He moved quickly, with practiced motions, as if he'd done this dozens of times. Then he went to a small table where 3 younger kids sat. Their clothes were worn. Their faces were tired but hopeful. "Hey," Liam said gently. "I got those bars you guys like. Here." The kids' eyes lit up, the kind of glow children should never have over basic food. "Thanks, Liam," one of them said with a big grin. Alexander felt something shift in his chest. Liam sat beside them, opening a worn notebook. "Okay, show me your homework. I'll help before the place gets too crowded." "Why you always help us?" one kid asked innocently. Liam smiled faintly. "Because someone helped me once. And because I want to help you stay out of trouble." Alexander's breath caught. Another volunteer, a tired-looking woman in her 40s, approached Liam with relief in her eyes. "You came back. Thank God. We're overwhelmed today. One of the tutors called in sick, and I didn't know how we'd manage." "It's okay," Liam said. "I'll stay longer." "You always do," she replied warmly. "You're a blessing, sweetheart." Liam shrugged awkwardly, cheeks reddening. Alexander pressed a hand slowly to the cold brick wall beside him. His son was volunteering, secretly, every day, helping kids who had nothing. He wasn't hiding something shameful. He was hiding something good. A lump rose in Alexander's throat. Inside, the center grew busier. 10, then 15 more children entered, some loud, some shy, some obviously from rough homes. Liam stood to help organize them. A small boy tripped on a loose rug, and Liam rushed to catch him. "You okay, buddy?" The boy nodded, smiling shyly. Then Liam spoke with a quiet authority that stunned Alexander. "Everyone, remember, this place is safe. No fighting, no yelling. We help each other here. Got it?" The children nodded collectively, some mimicking salutes. The woman from earlier chuckled. "See, they listen to you better than they listen to me." Liam rubbed the back of his neck. "I think they just know I get them." Alexander leaned closer, trying to make sense of the warmth and maturity coming from a boy he had only seen as distant and withdrawn. He didn't notice someone approaching until a voice spoke directly behind him. "You lost?" Alexander flinched. A tall teenager stood there, arms crossed suspiciously. "I, just looking for someone," Alexander said. The teen squinted at him. "You don't belong around here." Alexander swallowed. "My son. He's inside. Liam." Instantly, the boy's posture softened. "Oh, Liam's cool. He helps my little brother." Alexander wasn't sure whether to smile or cry. "I didn't know he came here," he said honestly. The teen smirked with a hint of irony. "Yeah, well, a lot of us didn't know he had a dad. He never talks about you." The words hit Alexander like a punch to the stomach. "Thanks," he said quietly. "You've, actually helped." The boy shrugged and walked away, leaving Alexander standing alone with emotions he hadn't felt in years. He peered back inside. Liam was kneeling next to a girl struggling with reading. "You're not dumb," Liam told her firmly. "You're just learning. Everyone learns at their own pace. Don't give up, okay?" The girl nodded quickly, cheeks brightening. "Good," Liam smiled, "because you're going to master this." Alexander's throat tightened so much he could barely breathe. For the next hour, he watched. Liam played games with the kids, helped with assignments, handed out snacks, fixed a broken chair, even pulled out a small first aid kit from his backpack when one boy scraped his knee. Every action carried a quiet resilience, a maturity far beyond his age, a kindness Alexander had not nurtured, yet somehow existed. When the crowd lessened and the sky darkened, Liam helped stack chairs and clean. The woman approached him again. "You know, sweetie, you're exhausted. You don't need to carry all this alone." "I'm fine," Liam said, though dark circles lined his eyes. "These kids, they're better here than anywhere else." "We are grateful for everything you do," she said gently, "and we're sorry about what happened to your friend." Alexander stiffened. "What happened to his friend?" he whispered under his breath. He leaned in even closer, trying to catch the conversation. Liam lowered his head. He got mixed with the wrong crowd. His mom works 3 jobs, and he was lonely. I tried helping him, but he got arrested last year. The woman touched his shoulder sympathetically. "You couldn't have saved him, Liam." "I know," Liam whispered brokenly, "but I can save others." Alexander felt his heart fracture. That boy, that small boy he raised, had been carrying a weight no child should bear. A child stepped in front of Liam suddenly. "Are you going home now?" "Yeah," Liam said softly. "I'll see you tomorrow." Alexander watched as the child hugged his son tightly. Liam hugged back gently, then grabbed his old backpack and headed out the door. Panicking, Alexander backed away from the window and hurried to hide behind a dumpster just as Liam stepped into the alley. The boy walked with slow footsteps, shoulders drooped from exhaustion. He pulled out a cheap granola bar, the only one he saved for himself, and ate it quietly as he walked. Alexander's chest burned. His son was hungry, in a mansion with 10 full-time chefs. He wanted to cry, scream, or run to him, but he stayed still, giving Liam space. When Liam reached the end of the alley, a loud group of teens passed by, shoving each other and shouting crude jokes. Liam stepped aside quickly, head lowered. One of the teens sneered, "Hey, charity boy, going to save the world again?" Liam didn't respond. He just kept moving. "Hey," the teen taunted louder. "I'm talking to you," Liam shrugged. "Leave me alone, Jason." "And if I don't?" "Then you're wasting both our time," Liam said, voice surprisingly steady. Jason scoffed. "Whatever, you're weird." Alexander's fists clenched. He had half a mind to intervene, but Liam kept walking unharmed. The moment the group disappeared, Alexander finally stepped out, slowly, cautiously, following his son from a safe distance. Liam walked another 10 blocks before stopping at a bus stop. He sat heavily, rubbing his eyes. Alexander felt guilt crash into him like a tidal wave. His son was tired, hungry, stressed, alone, and he never noticed. A bus arrived and Liam climbed in. Alexander waved down a cab instead of using his car. It would be too obvious. "Follow that bus," he told the driver quietly. As they drove through the night, Alexander stared out the window, eyes misting over. "My son," he whispered. "What have I done to him?" The cab followed the bus all the way back to the wealthy district. Liam got out 3 blocks from the mansion, walking the rest of the way. Alexander dismissed the cab and walked behind him through the shadows of manicured hedges and glowing street lamps. When they reached the gate, Liam paused, staring up at the massive estate. He sighed, long, deep, tired, then entered. Alexander waited until he was certain Liam was inside before following. Inside the foyer, Liam trudged upstairs. The house was silent. No one greeted him. No one noticed his fatigue. Alexander watched from the foot of the stairs as his son disappeared into his room. Slowly, the billionaire sank onto the bottom step, burying his face in his hands. He had thought Liam was drifting away because of teenage rebellion, or laziness, or privilege. But the truth was far more painful. His son was becoming a better person than he had ever been, and he had done it all alone. Alexander exhaled shakily, whispering into the empty hallway, "I'm so sorry, Liam. I had no idea." He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in his study, replaying every moment he had just witnessed. Every smile Liam gave those kids, every scrape on his hands, every tired breath. The next morning, as sunlight filtered in, Alexander made a decision that would change their lives forever. Tomorrow, he would follow Liam again. But this time, he wouldn't stay hidden. Alexander woke up with a purpose he hadn't felt in years. But before he could act, the intercom buzzed. Clara's voice echoed softly, "Sir, your morning meetings are about to begin." "Cancel everything," Alexander said without hesitation. "All of it?" she asked, stunned. "Yes, and push the board review to next week. I'm handling something more important." Clara didn't question him. She simply said, "Understood, sir." Later that afternoon, Alexander parked farther away from the school than the day before. He wore inconspicuous clothes again, but this time his fingers tapped nervously against his coat. He wasn't just watching. Today he was going to speak to his son. When school let out, Liam exited again, alone, tired, hoodie up. He immediately headed toward the same bus route. Alexander followed, heart pounding. He kept expecting a moment where Liam would glance back, but the boy never did. His eyes were focused on the ground, on the next step, the next breath, the next responsibility he carried alone. When Liam got off the bus 15 minutes later and turned toward the same rough street, Alexander followed more boldly than before. By the time Liam slipped into the alley leading to Riverside Youth Center, Alexander wasn't hiding anymore. He walked straight up to the old building's front door and stepped inside. The room fell silent. Kids froze mid-play. The staff member from yesterday nearly dropped her clipboard. Liam, who had been kneeling beside a child, slowly stood up. His eyes widened. "Dad?" Alexander's throat tightened. "Hi, Liam." The woman blinked at him. "Sir, we didn't expect—" "I'm sorry for intruding," Alexander said quickly. "I just needed to see this place from the inside, properly." Liam's face turned pale. "Did you follow me?" "Again?" Alexander swallowed. "I had to. I needed to understand." The room shifted with awkward tension. A few children whispered, "That's Liam's dad," before the woman clapped lightly. "All right, kids, let's work on homework while they talk." She guided them away gently, though several kept sneaking glances at the billionaire. Liam walked toward Alexander slowly, jaw tight. "You spying on me now?" Alexander shook his head. "I wasn't spying. I was worried." "Really?" Liam laughed bitterly. "Since when?" The words hit like knives. "Since I realized I don't know my own son," Alexander replied quietly. A flicker of pain passed through Liam's eyes, but he stepped away, grabbing a rag to wipe a table. "Well, now you know. Congratulations. You can go." "I'm not leaving," Alexander said firmly. Liam froze. Alexander stepped closer. "Liam, what you're doing here, it's incredible." "It's nothing," Liam muttered. "I just help out." "No," Alexander insisted. "It's not nothing. You're feeding kids who have nothing. You're helping them stay off the streets. You're doing more good at 15 than I did in 30 years. Liam didn't respond. Alexander softened. "Why didn't you tell me, son?" Liam pressed his lips together. Then, after a long silence, he whispered, "Because it had nothing to do with you." Alexander blinked. "Liam, you're busy," Liam said, voice cracking. "You're always busy. Work, meetings, flights. Everything comes before me. If I asked for help, you just throw money at it. And that's not what this place needs." The truth sliced painfully through the air. "I didn't want your money," Liam continued. I wanted to do something real, something on my own, something that might actually matter. Alexander's heartbeat roared in his ears. All this time, Liam whispered, I thought, if I at least helped these kids, maybe I wouldn't feel so useless. Alexander inhaled sharply. You are not useless, Liam scoffed. Then what am I to you? A responsibility your staff manages. A name on a school report you never look at. A stranger in your house? Alexander felt tears build. He reached out, but Liam stepped back. That's what I thought, Liam said quietly. The youth center leader approached cautiously. Liam, why don't you take a break? I'll watch the kids. Liam nodded stiffly, walking out to the small back courtyard. Alexander followed. Outside, the air was crisp, chill biting through the silence. Liam sat on a broken bench, elbows on his knees. Alexander approached slowly. Can I sit? Liam shrugged, not looking at him. It's a free bench. Alexander sat beside him, leaving a respectful amount of space. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Alexander said softly, I saw how you talked to the kids yesterday. Liam didn't answer. You're patient, Alexander continued. You're gentle. You're strong. You held that little boy when he got hurt. You encouraged the girl who couldn't read. You made them feel safe. Liam's eyes glistened, but he remained silent. And when you talked about your friend, Alexander paused, voice breaking. Liam, why didn't you come to me? What difference would it make? Liam whispered. You would have been in a meeting or flying somewhere or sending an assistant instead of coming yourself. I'm sorry, Alexander breathed. I failed you, Liam. Liam squeezed his eyes shut shakily. I didn't want you to fail. I just wanted you to be there. Alexander covered his mouth, overwhelmed. After a long silence, he forced himself to speak calmly, steadily. Liam, I want to understand everything. Tell me about your friend. Liam hesitated, then exhaled slowly. His name was Noah. We used to walk home from school together. He came here to escape things at home. We'd hang out, play games, help with homework. And, Alexander urged gently, one day Noah stopped coming. Weeks later, I found out he'd been hanging around some older boys who made him feel important. They got him stealing stuff. Then, he got caught. Alexander closed his eyes. I tried to talk to him, Liam whispered, but he said I didn't understand, and maybe I didn't. But after he was arrested, I just kept thinking, what if I had stayed with him more? What if I had been there that day? Maybe he wouldn't have gone. You're a kid, Alexander said. You shouldn't blame yourself for something like that. Then who else will? Liam asked quietly. His mom works non-stop. His dad's gone. Nobody was there for him. So I decided I'd be there for others. I couldn't fix everything, but I could help a little. Alexander rubbed his forehead, voice trembling. I didn't know my son had this much heart. Liam huffed. You didn't know your son at all. Alexander swallowed hard. But I'm going to change that, starting now. Liam turned to him with cautious eyes. How? I'll be here, Alexander said immediately. Not just today, I want to volunteer, to help you, to help them, and not with money, with my time. Liam's expression softened in disbelief. You'd really come here? Yes, Alexander said without hesitation. Every day if you want. And when I'm not traveling, I want us to eat dinner together, talk, actually see each other. Liam stared at him, tears forming. You mean that? With everything I have, Alexander whispered. Liam's lip quivered. He wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed, but Alexander gently placed a hand on his shoulder. I love you, Liam, he said quietly. And I'm sorry I made you feel like you were alone in this world. Liam broke then, just slightly, but enough. He leaned into his father's shoulder for the first time in years, and Alexander wrapped his arms around him, holding him as tightly as he once did when Liam was small. After a long moment, Liam pulled back, sniffling. "Dad, can we start over?" Alexander smiled through tears. "I would love nothing more." Inside, the woman peeked out, smiling when she saw them. "Whenever you two are ready, we could really use an extra pair of hands." Alexander stood and said, "Lead the way." For the next 2 hours, father and son worked side by side, cleaning, sorting supplies, organizing games. The kids giggled when they realized Liam's dad wasn't just rich. He was surprisingly funny and clumsy when trying to fix a broken shelf. By the time they walked home, the streetlights glowed warmly above them. Liam carried his old backpack. Alexander carried a box of donated books that he promised to repair. At the mansion gates, Liam hesitated. "Dad, will you really come back tomorrow?" Alexander placed a hand on his shoulder. "Tomorrow and every day you want me there." Liam smiled, small but real. "Okay, I'd like that." Alexander nodded. "Me too." Together they walked inside. No distance, no silence, no coldness. Just a father and a son finally finding each other again. If you enjoyed this story and want more emotional, eye-opening tales like this, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment your favorite moment. Your support helps bring more stories to life. And who knows? The next story might just change someone else's world too.